In this section of the demonstration, I'm going to go into the main Cared4 folder. This is where all the policies, procedures and forms are. You'll find there are just over 300 documents. They divide down into around about 80 procedures, 80 policies and 130 different forms. So if you're a customer of ours, you'll sign in with a username and a password which we will email to you. We're going to log in and we're going to go to our domiciliary care template site, which is just here, and you'll find there is a series of folders. Now, our previous video looked at the registration aspect. After this video we will show you around the key lines of inquiry, but this folder here is the main Cared4 folder where everything springs from. Number 1.0, Cared4 QMS domiciliary care agencies, and there's a tiny triangle here. If we expand things out and we get into some subfolders now, the subfolders we're looking at are 3 procedures and 4 forms, policies. They're the main documents. Expanding the procedures out, we get more subfolders. Now we have 6 subfolders here which section our procedures, and they are headed up by a contents index. So if I open this document, you'll be able to see the contents of what's in these folders underneath. So let me just open that now for you. Now I'm doing it directly from online, so it will just pop up for me, and these titles are correlated to the folders that we've just come from online. And we have things like management arrangements, so the management issues in your agency, things like health and safety, infection control. These would be everyday issues, and I'm going to highlight them. Confidentiality, things to be aware of like reporting a bad practice, prevention of abuse, managing staff. This would be everyday issues. In our second section, people management, we have documents that I would say are the human resource type documents, and they follow in order: recruitment, checking qualifications, induction, training and supervision. They would be the core documents in that folder. Moving on, we have our service delivery index folder here. Obviously the folder is online, these are just the titles of the documents. Pivotal to everything, assessment and planning. Communication, keeping records, they couple up together, we'll highlight them. And things that regulators may focus upon: comments, suggestions and complaints, risk management. So they would be my highlights in the service delivery section there. Moving on, we have now procedures that reflect the on the ground activity, what the staff are doing in the service user's home. These next 2 sections, personal and practical care tasks. And what I like to do is think, well, what are people's care packages usually made up of? And the majority would be helping people up, helping them to bed, helping them with hygiene, helping them to dress and undress, helping them with eating and drinking, and assisting with their medication. And they're my highlights in the personal care section. And highlights in the practical care section, just a couple, I would say: shopping, domestic tasks and preparing meals, which couples up with PC07 as well. The CQC and often local authorities look at continuous improvement, so they want the service to constantly be self-analytical and moving on and looking for ways to improve that service. So what I would point you to in this section would be things like involving people in the running of the service. That comes down to satisfaction surveys also. And finally, internal audits. So what I'm going to do now is show you a couple of documents and show you how the documents work. The documents will tell us what to do, they will tell us what to record on. So this procedure here, MAO2, accident incident near miss reporting, it's in the management arrangements folder online. So I'm just going to minimize that, and we're back online to our management arrangements folder. I'm looking for MAO2, and we're going to open that up from online now. And what we find is, when we get into the procedure, is an introduction. This first page is all an introduction. This is the procedure and the A, B and C of the task. So we have 80 procedures in this system, and the scope is consistent. At least the sections look the same on all 80 of them. What they say is different. This scope is a system for reporting accidents. Aims and values: to minimize and prevent accidents, to ensure staff are clearly aware of the process for reporting accidents and incidents. And what I was saying to you before is, as we go over the page, we'll see these numbers, DC1, 9, etc. What they are is forms connected with the activity. So what we're really saying is, do this, record on this as evidence. And that's going to become more apparent as we go into the first section, which is reporting an accident incident in a service user's home. So let me just go into the first section. We're only going to read half a dozen lines. In the event of an accident or incident occurring, staff should remain calm and deal with the situation in a professional manner. The manager should ensure staff are able to recognise the difference between an accident and incident and the action required to deal with either. So we're getting to these first forms here. Home care staff should record the accident incident on the communication record sheet. Now it says DC09. Now it's in the form section, and we'll look at that a bit later. But what I've done is I've opened that form up on the bottom of the screen to show you what it looks like. So on the bottom of the screen, DC09 is here, and this is a daily diary, daily log, daily report, and staff would go in at such and such a date and time. If it was an accident, maybe one of the service users has had a fall, we'll put the details into this section, and time out, report if needed to the care coordinator in the office, and sign out. This sheet though is for everything, isn't it? It's, you know, helping with shopping, helping with hygiene, assisting with medication, and all the details around that the staff would describe on this sheet. And we're using that for reporting an accident, as well as other forms such as the accident form and the care plan will be referenced in this procedure also. So let me go on now. We'll minimize that, and we're back to our procedure. And Cared4 is written around regulation. If we look at this point here, regulation is around health and safety. Accident incident reporting is part of health and safety regulation 18. Second form we're going to look at is in 6.7 here, where an accident or incident is reported to the home care coordinator. They will be responsible for completing the accident incident near miss form. It's form number 1. Form number 1, again, I have brought it and opened it on the bottom of the screen prior to this demonstration. And this is form number 1, and just to show you the detail, it may be, as I say, somebody's had a fall in their home. We'll pop the initial details in here. We'll take the service user, information about the location of the accident and treatment, a description of the accident and details of witnesses, etc. Details required if it involved an employee or contractor. Reporting the accident. Serious enough, reported under RIDO. I believe there's an online application, so we would say yes or no there. If that were the case, we had to fill that in. And this is very important, because we're not just about reporting now, we're being proactive in managing a situation and making suggestions or preparation to avoid any future incidents. So we'll take our example around falls, and remedial action would be inform the staff a strategy for preventing future falls where possible, incorporate a risk assessment into the care plan which itemizes that strategy for minimizing the falls. So that's really how our documents work. So I'm just going to minimize this and do a little bit of housekeeping if I can, which is what I call. If you decide to go ahead with us, we have this text at the top of every document, name of agency in brackets in capitals. We put out a find and replace, we have software, and we put your company name on the top. Now we have a little grid at the bottom of this document. It tells us the procedure number, and it tells us the issue number and the revision number, and that's what I want to focus in on. Issue number, well, if that was to be a total rewrite of this document, that would increase numerically by 1. If we were to revise this document a section at a time, whatever it might be, then we would just increase the revision number numerically by 1. And this all relates to the update service that we provide, because when we update a document for you, we send you an email and these numbers will change. There will be an itemized table detailing the documents that have changed in the system, so, and even the revision numbers if you really want to know. So we're looking after the system for you and updating it. And just one other thing is, in the footer here, what we have is a automatic updating field. Now I'm actually recording this video in the middle of December 2018, but by my calculation, in about 17 days time, or around about that will say January 18. Now why that's important is we were having customers who were getting in visits by inspectors or local authority contracts commissioners, and what was happening is they would be coming in, say in 2016 or 2017, and saying, oh, your documents are out of date. So then this is part of the housekeeping, if you like, to ensure that the appearance at least of the document remains in date. So let me just shut this now, and I'm going to show you another document if I can. So I'm going to go back online and I'm going to show you one of our personal care documents. So we're still in our main Cared4 folder in procedures, personal care, expand that out via the little triangle, and assisting with hygiene. So what is consistent is that introductory approach: scope, aims and values, responsibilities. And this one happens to be the support and assistance given by home care staff to meet people's hygiene needs. And aims and values, I'm going to abridge here: make people feel comfortable, at ease, provide assistance, promote independence, assist in upholding privacy and dignity, etc. And I think they're good core values to have. And over the page we're going to prepare to undertake a personal care task. So let me just scroll over the page, and I'm not going to go into detail, it's just to get a flavour really of where the documents are coming from. And we're going to approach this systematically, because if we're going to deliver personal care, then we're going to need to know what's in the care plan. We're going to need to know the risks involved. They happen to be in the care plan, by the way. Some of the documents sit alone too. We need to involve the service user in what we're going to do for them. We need to take into account some practical considerations. You know, establish the room. Some rooms are more larger or not as cluttered, and propose less of a risk. Some rooms are warmer in a person's house than others. That's all we're saying here. Take into account practical considerations. Your staff need to work efficiently. They need to get all their equipment together, because they will be having half an hour, 3/4 of an hour calls. I don't know what time you may be allocating them, but they have to deliver that care package within that time frame and then move on to another person who's anticipating them arriving at a certain time. So work efficiently, and also work observing clean and hygienic practices. You know, put your gloves and aprons on. We don't want cross-contamination or infection. Take off articles of clothing and make sure that we're maintaining a person's dignity, and ensure that the service user is safe and comfortable prior to undertaking a task. And I'm not going to go into any more detail with regard to this, but we have bathing and showering, and we have assisting a service user with a wash, hair care, wet shaving, dry shaving, dental care. And this last section I do like, because it can be used as a basic tool for staff, and giving particularly new starters who are unsure if they're presented with certain scenarios. These are not exhaustive scenarios, by the way. And maybe one of your staff arrives on the premises and there's not enough toiletries to undertake the task. Maybe they notice a rash or break on the service user's skin, or even a bruise a little bit further down here. Maybe a family member's been out to the local pharmacy and bought some medication, but it's not on the mark sheet or prescribed. Maybe you have service users with cognitive problems and they refuse their care. And we're seeing two things here. We're saying the person in charge needs to know what is going on if there's anything untoward. That's the first thing. The second thing, make sure to record everything on that number 9 form. We looked at that before. We used it to record an accident. If you remember, I'm just going to flash it up on the screen. That form there, you would record also on there anything untoward, and also in the care plan. And what the well-known saying is if it's not recorded, it isn't done. And that's what we're really saying here. Report it, record it. So let me just shut some things and go back online. So we're just shutting our index now. And what I'm going to do is just look at the forms section. Now, we looked at form number 1, which was our accident form, and form number 9, which is our communication record form. So we're into forms here, and there is an index, by the way, and I'm going to go that in a second. But if I wanted to manually locate those forms now, 1 and 9, we group our forms into 20s, and they are both in the first folder. So expand that folder out, and there's 1, the accident incident report form, and there's 9, the communication record sheet. Now, I will come back in 2 minutes to the forms, but you can search for things in this system. And if you see along the top to do navigator dashboard, we have search. So let's just click into search, and what I want to do is search by the keyword in a title, just a single word. This is not Google, it's not overcomplicated. And what we've looked at is an accident procedure and an accident form. So that word should be picked up in the titles of those documents, and we have a little spyglass icon down here. We clicked in title, as I said before, and there's the procedure, and DC or forms, and there's a form. By the way, there's a log. It is mentioned in the accident procedure, we just didn't look at it or refer to it. And there might be other things as well. You might want to put a random search in, and let's think, oh, what's on safeguarding? Surely there's a safeguarding policy, procedure, whatever in this system. Again, little search icon here. QP is a quality policy. DC is a form, not referenced here, but anything else is a procedure, and this is a procedure on safeguarding. And finally, a lot of people would say, well, look, risk is a big area. What forms have you got on risk in this system? So let me just again do our little search. DC forms, general risk assessment, moving and handling. They are in the care plan as well, but they are set individually too. Risk assessment around property, around falls. This is for staffing, new mothers, staffing, lone working risk assessment, bed rails, etc. And you get how this works. And my suggestion would be, take the index, take a keyword out of the indexes that I've shown you from the procedures I'm about to show you, the forms index, or take a keyword where it's referenced in a document and you're thinking, oh, well, what does that document look like? Take the keyword, come out and go into the search, copy it out and paste it into the search field, and then it'll pick up the document for you. So let's go back now to our forms, and in folder 1 and forms, and here's the index of forms. Let me just open that up. So we've looked at some of these forms. There's number 1 and number 9. What I want to say here is that this is not a random index of forms. This is forms or templates that are connected to activity in the documentation. So you will find, for instance, if I were to say we have a recruitment procedure. The application form is referenced within that document. We have a complaints procedure and policy. You will find those documents referenced within that complaints procedure or policy. So I'm just slowly scrolling down here. On our website, all of the index of forms, policies and procedures is there. So you will be able to look at this after this demonstration, and even though I'm going relatively quickly through, you can take your time and have a look at them separately. So I'm just going to go into policies. Now these are a list of the policies in the system, and we're going to look at one policy, and then that will be the end of this section of the demonstration. And what I want to do is look at the safeguarding policy, which is QP61. So I'm just going to shut this index now, go back online, we'll shut some of these other documents that happen to be on my screen. And we're in Forms, Policies and Books folder. We're still in that main Cared4 folder. Policies, we'll just expand that out, we're looking for 61. And here's our safeguarding policy here. Now what you will find is a standard approach. Just like we have that standard structure or approach in our Cared4 procedures, we have that in the policies too. We always have an introduction. This one, safeguarding means protecting people's health, well-being and human rights and enabling them to live free from harm, abuse and neglect. It's fundamental to high quality health and social care. This policy is written to inform staff of how to protect service users in our agency. It's also designed to comply with Regulation 13 of the Health and Social Care Act, etc. The importance of having thorough safeguarding arrangements and monitoring systems in place as part of our agency and staff who often work alone. What the policy is about, it's based on these 6 principles which we're about to go and see that underpin all our safeguarding work within our service, part of the requirements of the Care Act, which happens to be 2014. Bit of an explanation there about the Care Act. Principles, there were 6 principles, they're now coming up. So the policy is now branching out into its respective sections, but introduction and what the policy is about we use as a standard approach. So I believe we may have this document as an example online, but there's our principles there: empowerment, prevention, proportionate, protection, partnership, accountability. And basically this is an extremely detailed but manageable at the same time. I think in summary, because I'm going to stop the video now, in summary what I would like to say that Cared4 is, it's simple but detailed. The simplicity is the operation of the system, locating the documents, reading the documents, comments I get from people who take on this system. It's great because it looks like people who've been involved in the care sector have written the policy or procedure. Also, people say to me it's in a language that everybody can understand. It's not just for managers, because it's the responsibility not of also the staff to read the documentation, and regulators will ask for that too. So it has to be readable, it has to be manageable, it has to be in a structure that staff can get to grips with it, and I believe that we've achieved that. So I'm not going to go any further in this policy. You will find further examples online, and this is just to give you a flavour of how Cared4 documentation works. So what we're going to do next is move on to our next video, which will be the key lines of inquiry and how we take the inspection framework, pair that the questions around safe, effective, caring, responsive and well led, pair them up with a document, and then provide direct evidence of what the service should be doing within a policy or procedure to meet the key lines of inquiry. So moving on to the next video.